Hello, hello. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of All Knicked Up. It is Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. We are 1 week away from Christmas. Can't believe that. A little crazy to think that December is almost done and this year's almost done. But that's the reality. And I know I've got most of my Christmas shopping done, so hope you all have gotten yours done too. We are here to talk about, of course, the New York Knicks and the NBA. So let me bring in Ty and Joe to complete the trio. I wasn't sure I was going to make it tonight. I'm not feeling the greatest, but I'm going to power through this. So again, if I disappear for a bit, I'm probably having a coughing fit. Just keep on talking, keep on moving without me, and I'll come back when I can. But other than that, how are you guys doing?
No load management up in here. We don't do that around here. I'm just gonna
No, it's not quite the Jordan flu game, but I don't think I have the flu. I have some sinusy stuff going on, and it's it's 'tis the season, right? Not just Christmas, but sickness.
Yes, sir.
So, but I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are doing healthy. Joe, I know you weren't feeling so great, but hopefully you're feeling better now. And
starting to feel better. My wife's still banged up though. We had a nasty sinus infection go through the house.
Yeah, see, I'm wondering if it's not too bad for me, but I got something's there. Something's there, but we'll see. Hopefully I can keep it at bay. I've been taking my airborne and all that stuff that's supposed to help boost your immunity to fight it off. So I'm giving that a shot. Hopefully that works. But we are here to talk, of course, about the New York Knicks. The Knicks are tonight. They play the Minnesota Timberwolves.
That's tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yes. Oh, tomorrow. My fault.
Tomorrow
Night. My fault. Tomorrow night. Yes, they play the Minnesota Timberwolves. So, this game's probably going to be a little emotional.
Mm-hmm.
I did see they did a little interview with Julius Randle, and he was kind of blowing it off, and he kept saying like, they asked him about it. He's like, it's just another game. The same thing guys always say. And we've had other interviews with guys from Minnesota where Rudy Gobert was saying like him and Towns bonded over playing Call of Duty, and so they seemed like there was some kind of a relationship there. We did kind of see a little bit of that last year, obviously, when Towns decided he would kind of change his game a little bit to make Gobert feel comfortable. So he kind of moved this game out to the perimeter, and it turned out they had one of their best seasons, of course, making the Western Conference Finals. So what do you guys expect to happen tomorrow? We obviously saw the one back at the Garden, but this is Towns, who, let's be honest, is the better player, the best player of the three, going back to a place where he was not only the first pick in the draft, he was an all-star, an all-NBA player there. What do you guys think is going to be the reception from Minnesota for him?
He said he didn't know what the reception was going to be like, but I can't imagine them not warmly welcoming him. I mean, this is not somebody that was looking to get out of town, that was publicly looking to get traded. It's something that he's always historically said that he was very involved and invested in the team and the region and everything like that. So he hasn't given them any fuel for that. I think he'll be warmly welcomed.
What about you, Ty? You think it's going to be love?
I think that the Knicks should probably up their security a little bit and make sure that they guard Karl-Anthony Towns. And why I say that for, the Minnesota fans will try to abduct him and switch Julius, put him in the cab back to New York. This is not even a question. What now? The ownership might get booed tomorrow night, but Minnesotians, is that what we can call them or whatever?
Minnesotans.
Paisley Parkians, whatever we want to call them, Prince's old stomping grounds. Those jokers over there are mad as hell. They got Julius.
They're going to hide him in the waters of Lake Minnetonka.
Yeah, Minnetonka, him and Apollonia, don't get on that motorcycle. I'm going to tell you, he gets on that little motorcycle, we'll never see Karl-Anthony Towns again in New York because they are going to tranquilize him and hold him hostage. with no ransom request. Just leave him the hell back in Minnesota, because clearly, I think Minnesota, much like we saw with New York, when Patrick was traded away, and granted, Patrick was at a point where he was obviously past his prime years. Knicks never recovered. It took the 3 decades before the Knicks actually got Jalen Brunson. Do we want to just say it's him? Probably. No, this to Melo, but we're talking about a guy who came in and actually switched the franchise into a winning atmosphere. You know, it went from Ewing to Brunson. It took 3 decades to get the right kind of athlete to play under these hot lights that can handle it. Not that Melo couldn't, but it's just a whole different dynamic, I think, with Brunson. But my point is that Minnesota's feeling the ripple effects. They have Ant-Man there, which, I mean, he's a phenomenal talent, but he's not Karl-Anthony Towns ready at this point. We see the potential there, but we're looking at a guy who was obviously a phenomenal scorer, but they're not getting that version of him that we have now. Yeah. Talk about buyer's remorse. I guess they're wondering, where was this guy at when they had him? Well, he wasn't playing in New York. Let's just keep it a bean. You don't play in New York. You know, you can't take nights off. You know, nobody gives a damn about Minnesota basketball. Not even the people in Minnesota. Nobody really cares about Minnesota basketball. In New York, you have to bring it every damn night or you're going to get booed. Karl-Anthony Towns was very well aware of that, and he brought his whole complete bag to New York. And he left some unpacked bags in Minnesota, I guess you would say. So maybe they might be a little ticked a little bit about that he didn't play the same way. But they would definitely put Julius back on the Knick bus and send him back.
So you don't think he did better than Glenn Rice, Shannon Anderson, and Howard Isley?
Glenn Rice. Glenn was cooked rice at that point. Stale rice. Now, if it was Charlotte Glenn Rice, we would have been really in a good spot. But, you know, Luke Longley was up at Gumtree, mate. He was going back to Australia already. You know, Foster's beer, he was gone. I mean, this is only the Knicks would do something like that. Get rid of their franchise. So let them come off the books. We always ask that. The same thing. I mean, we could go back to the scarring of Amnesty and Chauncey Billups. Just let them
We can't.
You know?
Yeah.
These things have just been horrific things. And unfortunately, what we're seeing in the league now is a lot of teams looking like the old Knicks. They make these moves, and it's like, you have no belief in your fan base, or you're not dedicated to the fan base. You're actually dedicated to either some mindless movement in the front office of people not being able to make unified decisions, or it's financial decisions nowadays. I just look at
financial decision.
Yeah, and looking at where Minnesota was last season, you know, like I said, I mean, Ant-Man's he's going to be hopefully a great player if his mind is right, but you lost a top 5 center in the league, maybe top 2,
especially this version.
Yeah. So you're not going to rip. Julius is great. Don't get me wrong, but Julius is an all-star. You know, every year he might be an all-star, but that's where it's going to stop, because we've not seen an elevated version of a guy who can do what we're seeing Karl-Anthony. He's the best player on the Knicks right now, and we have Jalen Brunson. Nobody would ever think that would be the case, that Jalen Brunson is now the second best player on the Knicks.
It's funny. It's funny you brought that up, Ty, because I was reading an article today from a Minnesota. I think it was on Sport. I think it might have been the Sporting News, and it was a Minnesota, like, I don't want to say he was a blogger, but he's definitely one of those that's like trying to break into the business. And he wrote this article saying, "Oh, the Knicks are realizing what the Minnesota Timberwolves knew about Towns, that their defense isn't good with him." And I'm reading the article, and even within the article, he says the numbers are still slightly better when Cat's on the court. So I'm like, what are you saying? Like, literally, what are you saying then? If they're still, what are you saying? So it was just interesting that you brought that up, because fans, we always try and justify the trade from our point of view, right? It's always we're trying to say, and we don't want to think we didn't get the better end of the deal. But I mean, take Towns and Randall out of it. The way Dante's been playing, you got to throw that into it, because he was part of the trade, and he's been terrible. Like, I can't even sugarcoat that.
He needs to get him some Lexapro. I think he's in depression.
That might be it, Joe. But seriously, like, he was part of the deal, and if you believe the talk behind it, They weren't going to do the trade without Dante. He was the
Yeah.
guy they wanted, actually. They were taking Julius, but they wanted Dante. And the guy that they wanted, in my opinion, has been more disappointing. Randall's putting up fine numbers. He's averaging, I think, 21 and I think 7 and 4, which obviously there's a little less usage here because he doesn't have because Anthony Edwards is such a, I don't want to say a ball hog, but he definitely ball dominant.
Volume.
So yeah. So his usage rate's probably a little lower with them. So his numbers are probably on par to what they've been. And I believe he's shooting better from 3, which
Yeah, I think he is.
yes.
I think he's
Yeah,
high.
so for that, right? So I think that's good for them from him, that perspective. But if you're looking at the trade as a whole, I mean, the Dante portion of it, which I never thought would be the case, I thought that Julius is, I don't want to say craziness, but eccentricity maybe as a player on the court. Maybe that part of it would be the thing where Minnesota had trouble, but it doesn't seem like that's been the case at all. It's been the Dante portion. And yeah, I think they're going to be, they probably have a little bit of buyer's remorse right now, especially with how well Towns has been playing. And at literally he's been playing at a superstar level. Like, I don't even say an all-star level. He's really been playing at the top level. You could tell in the way that he's playing, because if there's games where he's not scoring, he's still getting the rebounds. He still, has a presence. He's not letting one thing dictate something else. And that's what superstars do. When they don't have it in some form, they beef it up in another area. And then usually an effort stat, which they can control. You can't always control the ball going in. Yeah. So he leads the NBA in rebounding, which, everyone looked at him before. He's like, oh, his rebounding's down. Well, he was playing with Rudy Gobert, who that's kind of what he does. So, but now when the Knicks need him, the Knicks have a rebounding problem, but he's not the problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be a fun game to watch though. Like, we got it here in the Garden, but Julius didn't play in the preseason, right? And it was preseason, and so it's gonna be fun. I think this game is gonna be fun to see, fun to watch from that perspective, and just see how it goes. I don't know what to expect.
Another Dante blow up.
You think?
I would love to see that. I think.
Oh, you'd love to. I thought you said we're going to.
No, I would love to see that again. Give me the drama.
Yeah, it would add juice again. Like, it would add a little juice to the game. I think the game's gonna have enough juice from at least because, like we said, all the elements involved. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a little bit more, I think, than a regular season game.
I think this will definitely show you and I posted it on our page. You're going to find who the Knicks are in this game. Whoever the Knicks are, the team this will happen either one way or another. It will it's going to propel the team that wins this game, in my opinion. I think the team that walks away with this W after this, because I think it's going to be a little bit, to borrow from wrestling, there's going to be a little bit of a slobber knocker in Minnesota tomorrow, because you have a lot of pride on the line. You have guys that believe that they were obviously sent out with their shovels, as we saw with Julius, which the Knicks are dirty dogs for doing how they did Julius. I mean, this is really bad PR. For a team that's trying to keep their PR, they did probably the worst PR. Like, here, take the shovel. Now get the hell out of town. That's literally what it was. But in looking at that, you're going to find the Knicks are obviously coming off of the loss to Atlanta. They played very well as far as the tenacity and the aggression that they did in Orlando, who was a tough team to play. Don't ever bypass them. But they're going to get real tested tomorrow. You have a lot of pride on the line from a lot of those guys. Some believing they were sucker punch someone to prove that they don't need Karl-Anthony Towns. And obviously Towns coming in believing that he has something to prove about. Basically, he still was traded. He was still not wanted by Minnesota. So that's still an emotion. It wasn't like Eric said, he wasn't like he was asking out. They traded him. They're basically saying we find more value in Naz Reid. So that's the reason why they really traded him. They felt Naz Reid can give the production and was a cheaper product, which is kind of the most insane thing when you think about that. But when you look at those emotions that are going to be riding high, obviously Dante, I expect him to have a great game.
So do I.
I know he's been terrible, but I expect him to have an excellent game tomorrow, wanting to prove that, the Knicks made a mistake actually including him in that trade. It's going to be intense. Hopefully the Knicks walk out with the W, but I think it's going to be a lot of identity being shown of who this team is moving forward, because you got to have mental toughness to play tomorrow. If you have any, you can't take plays off. I can't see how that's going to work. This is like an NBA Finals Game 7 right now for the Knicks early on to prove who they are, because
Yeah.
Ant's going to come out. He's going to be wired. I don't know. You know how he is. He's going to come out. I don't know who's going to guard him. That should be pretty entertaining. Because if it's Macau's going to have a long damn night.
Better be OG. I'd put OG on him.
Better be OG.
That'd be my assignment. Just because the Bridges is starting to look like the player we thought we were getting. He's starting to come around defensively, and I wouldn't want to put him in a game like that. And then if Edwards goes off, like, just that's a confidence thing at that point. You don't want to hurt his confidence. Yeah. Anunoby doesn't seem to care. Like that, and you know that with his personality. Like they were saying, oh, you know, what did you learn about Towns? And he's like, oh, nothing.
Yeah.
And like, oh, nothing.
Yeah, the post game. I mean,
yeah. Yep. He's like, oh, well, he's funny. He's funnier than I thought he was. Yeah. And like just little things like that. He's just so deadpan. And he'll say he's not, but he really is. He's so deadpan. So it's gonna be so yeah, he doesn't seem to get bothered by any of it. So I'd put him on Edwards. If it were me. But yeah, I mean, it's really a really good matchup across the board. You know, all positions. I think it's going to be a really interesting. And again, both teams are close record-wise. The Knicks are 16-10. I think they're 14-11.
Yeah.
So, you know, close record-wise, teams should be evenly matched. And like I said, the emotional part, that's going to be the difference. I think that's going to be the part that lifts one team. And as you said, Ty, could be, you know, reveal the true character of who the Knicks are.
I think you're going to have a big advantage on the center position offensively. I don't think Gobert is fleet-footed enough to stick with Towns, especially if Towns starts putting the ball on the ground. I mean, he can recover and block and stuff like that, but athletically they're on different levels. I think that could be a big advantage for the Knicks.
I think Gobert's a little overrated too.
They know each other, though, right?
There's that too.
But they practiced against each other. They know each other. Like, there's always an extra level when you're going from a team that knew you because they practiced against each other every day, I'm sure. So, you know, I'm sure.
Shoes. I don't know if he's going to be able to.
Yeah, he used to be a little quicker. He's not as quick as he once was. Which, again, he's getting older, so that happens. But, man, I didn't circle this game. Like, there wasn't a point where I said, "Oh, this was the game I wanted to watch." Obviously, with all the layers, it's definitely going to be one that I want to pay attention to. But yeah, with where both teams are at this point, we're kind of getting to that point. So let's toss it up and see what happens. I'm there now. The Knicks, however, go ahead.
The game at the Garden comes in the new year, and I think that's when you're going to see Dante explode when he's back at the Garden.
Oh, I hope not, but
awesome.
Not something I want to see.
You might be putting in the corner.
Yeah.
Take me back. Take me back, please.
All right, so we have some Knick Notes to go through. I think the first one, the most one that we've heard is Landry Shamet has been playing with Westchester a little bit, and apparently he's close to coming back or being ready to come back. But in order for the Knicks to bring him back, they have to get rid of someone. Now, the two names being tossed about were Ryan and Ariel Haporti. Those are the two names we heard. And it's interesting that Haporti's name was even rumored. So who do you like? I know who you all want to be the choice, but who do you think will be the choice? That's the question I'm giving you. Who do you think will be the choice?
I think it's going to be Matt Ryan simply because you have Landry Shamet coming up the pipeline right now, and he's going to replace some of the shooting that Matt Ryan is supposed to be producing. If there's one weakness in this team, it is size, length, rebounding, all of those things. If there's any weakness that we have right now, and we don't really have a guaranteed solution coming through. We have what would like to be the solution coming through the pipeline, but that still is uncertain how that entire thing's going to happen with Mitch. So the need is size and length. I think one of you guys put in I think Eric, you put it in the chat back and forth that we had. If it's Huck, it means that Tibbs doesn't like him because it doesn't make basketball sense. Guys like, you know, you're looking at Huck, which it fills a need right now against an option right now that you can replace. in an area of strength for us. So again, if it does go that way, especially considering we spent a pick on this guy, it's something personal. It's it would be hard, I think, for a lot of Knick fans to digest that, because he's become a very popular player amongst Knick fans. They've seen the potential there. They've seen a lot of what he can do. And frankly, we tend to fall in love with our second-round picks as a fan base. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't think it's going to go over well if it's Huck.
Ty, what do you I know we think it should be Ryan, but Joe brought up my point that I said if it is Huck Porty, it's probably a personal thing. Do you agree with that? Do you think would be a personal? We've seen this before with the coach. That's why.
Well, if you can read my my name today is Tom's Mystery Playbook. It's a mystery because we don't know what the hell it ever is. So we'll dive in. Hopefully, Jeff Teagues. Yeah, make sure y'all.
Here's what he's talking about. I wanted to show you.
We'll talk a little bit hopefully about Jeff Teagues quote. We'll bring it down.
Yes, we will. We will talk about him. Yes.
So just pay attention to this. So there's a great logical sense. I mean, we're all, I think, reasonable Knick fans. I don't think we're crazy Knick fans. I don't think that we're like over the top. We're not hyperbole, as Mr. Craig West would use that word, articulate.
Loves that word.
Very articulate way. I think we are very well-measured fans. I mean, I think our podcast is measured. I don't think we have high emotions. We're kind of a little bit cerebral on how we think the game through. So what I'm about to say has nothing to do with Tom Thibodeau, because nobody knows what the hell he's thinking. Because literally, it could be Huck Porty. Because we look at this team, and there's never been anything that made any damn sense when it comes to this coach's decision about rotations. Huck Porty's a rookie. We've seen the Knicks as a height-deprived team. We've seen it for the last, what we have, 26, 27 games?
Yeah.
He won't even put the damn guy in. He won't even put him in. We always talk about how short we are. You have a 7-footer. He won't even put the damn guy in. So he benches Sims.
Proven he can play. That's sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I shouldn't yell.
So he benches Sims. I mean, because we know that, that was a snapped object. It wasn't working.
Yeah. Right.
So you go, oh, next guy up, next man up. It has to be another 7-footer who can fill the bill. And no disrespect to Precious. He's like 6'8". He's a wiry, kind of small, like power forward, maybe small. He's more built like Mikal Bridges, a little bit stronger in my opinion, but he's just a taller guy. So I know we're giving him the minutes, but it's like, dude, you have a guy on the bench who knows how to play, and he happens to have the height requirement to get into Disneyland. We know he can fit the bill. He's a 7-footer. He plays with the right aggression. He always finds the right place to be in. I would say that's a skill set when you know where you're supposed to be on the floor, how to receive a pass. Even Jalen Brunson, who ignores Sims all the time and kind of ignores even Mitchell Robinson most of the time, for some reason he finds Huck Porty in the lane. He dunks it down to him, lob pass, skip pass, whatever. He has the guy involved. So you would think next man up be like, oh, play Huck Porty some minutes now. Why not? And I know he's got a little ankle injury, so we'll give that little nod that I think he's a little injured right now. But we're talking previously to the injury. We saw Matt Ryan play more than Huck Porty. He's put Matt in the games over Tyler Kolek, over Huck Porty, over Dadier. We've seen this method before because we can go back to, let's not go to a second rounder. Let's go to a first rounder, the 9th pick, Obi Toppin. We've seen this story before where you might need athleticism. You might need a guy who can jump out the gym and top. It's like, nah, Josh. He's bringing in Josh. He's like, I don't care. Josh is 6'2". He can be Spud Webb. His name is Spud Josh. He's bringing in Josh. So there's no foregone conclusion because we need a 7-footer. That's why we're scouring the market now and supposedly looking for someone to come in and do some of the things that Mitch does. This is what we're going around because Mitch is out. Clearly for maybe another month or so, maybe 2 months, we don't know. We're looking in the trade market. And you picked a guy at the end of the draft who has some skill. I'm not saying he's like Hakeem Olajuwon here, but He's serviceable enough to be a backup in this damn league.
Sure.
8 minutes a game. Are you kidding me? And this coach is like, nah, we're not doing that around here. Send him to Westchester. So is it above the thought to believe that Matt Ryan may not get waived? Hell yeah, because he's a vet. And Tom may he likes underdogs. If you're talented, Tom Thibodeau don't know what the hell to do with you.
He doesn't have a lot of time in the league, though, Matt Ryan. It's not like he's a 9-year veteran.
But he's a bum. And you know what? Tom will make that bum into a classy bum. That's what he will say. I'll teach him how to work. He's going to work. He doesn't give a damn about whether or not as long as he's an overachieving athlete, Tom wants that dude in his lineup. So when we look at Huck, he's like, oh, we don't do talent around here. No talent. He doesn't want the guy that's been playing in Germany, who's got some skill, been playing probably since he was a kid, who has shown he's shown a great poise on the floor. It's like this guy's trash. He's not a washed talent. This guy has come in. He's had electric moments. And he's had electric moments in the game. He's influenced the game. And it's like this guy's like, nah, he may very well. But I mean, the Knicks fans should be in a complete uproar, and the front office needs to be fired if they do it. He would very well ask for Matt Ryan over Huck Porty because I've seen no evidence to make me believe that he loves Huck Porty. I've seen no evidence.
Yeah, the lack of, like I said, the lack of playing time when it's a clear need, right? And he has shown flashes of being able to handle the moment. Like I always say with rookies, you want to see if the moment's too big. It's not. Like he's met that moment every time he's played. So, yeah, I mean, that's an excellent point, but you kind of brought this up before, and as you said, he doesn't know what to do with talent, which would lead us to, of course, the Jeff Teague interview little clip about Tom Thibodeau, who says like he essentially doesn't coach. That's what I took from that whole thing. Like he's just kind of like standing and like scowling, like damn, and yelling at people. Like that's basically what Teague says. Like he kind of lets the players do their thing. He doesn't really coach them much. Which lends to the Ty and I have said from the beginning, like he has no offensive system. Like
none.
You're having a player
having this conversation last year.
Yes.
Before the OG trade. This offense seemed to come out after the OG trade, but beforehand you're like, there's no offensive system. He's just letting them do whatever they want to do. You heard it here first, folks. Last year.
It's just happy. It was just nice to get some validation, right? That Jeff Teague, not that he listens to us, but if he did, he could say, those guys are right. He doesn't coach. He doesn't know what to do on offense. He has a defensive system. He said that. Like he has a defensive system, and that's what he wants, and he tells you that. But when it comes to offense, he's like, he just lets the guys do what they do. Which I always bring up the quote he says, the game will tell you where you need to go. Like,
because I'm not going to tell you where to go.
Yeah.
But the same thing as of D'Antoni coaching defense, essentially. Defense is just effort.
I just think it was just coach speak when he said the game would tell you where you need to go. But no, that really is his philosophy. Like there's nothing deeper to it. So funny.
It's a very shallow grave. And people probably thought we were some conspiracy theorists, like, they're outlandish. They did something like Tom. It's like, no, that dude don't coach. And we just for the longest damn time, Emmanuel quickly tipped the hand a little bit too, because he says, in an interview, he said, as long as you play defense, Tom will let you do whatever you want on offense. But I didn't know it was to the magnitude, because Jeff Teague is one of the best storytellers of NBA basketball. If anybody watches I think it's 520 podcast, whatever, he tells some great stories, and they're very candid stories and very, very open and honest and raw. But to hear that from him, a guy he likes because he thinks Tibbs is his favorite coach. I think that's his favorite coach, he said. He's that candid about it. He almost came to New York because of Tibbs. He was almost coming here, but I think he wouldn't end up going to Boston or whatever it was. But my point is that to hear that guy validated, who likes the coach and is like, he doesn't do anything. That's what he's basically said on the podcast. He's like, he curses. He says, damn, what is it? The trigger words, damn. Oh, that's the other thing. He asked Teagues, What is it that you're seeing out there? I'm seeing you're not coaching. That's what I'm seeing. Can you imagine? Tell me what you're seeing out there. Are you serious? What are you seeing out there? What are you seeing from the bench? And
yeah, like you're supposed to be
it's the madness.
like we're playing, we're reacting to what's going on. We can only see what we need to see in that time. You should be watching the entire thing and telling us, okay, you need to do this better. You need to do this better. That's essentially what coaching is. So, man, it's not the best endorsement of him as a coach. Now, like I said, I give him credit for coming and putting structure, all that stuff. He's very good at doing that, and he gave the Knicks direction. Now, I'm fine with that, but I've maintained, and I've said it from the beginning, they will never win a championship with him as the head coach. They're going to have to change to somebody else to win an NBA title because he can only take a team as far as his own limitations will allow him to go. He can't exceed his own limitations. He's not one of those coaches who can do that. So it was just interesting to hear Teague say that. And when you shared that, I'm like, I still can't believe how long he was in the league. Teague.
Yeah, he's been in it for a while.
Yeah. But yeah, it was just a funny story and a funny thing to read and hear. So very, 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 very interesting. All right, so we have some trade news to go through. This is the season of trading. So let's get into that part of it, huh?
Oiga Vault.
Yeah, let's get into some of the trade talk we've been hearing. So the first one, which I have there, was a little bit of a surprise to me that Jericho Sims his teammates are actually interested in him, and not because, again, I've said many times, I think there's something there. I just don't know this coach, like you said, could get it out of him, but I do think there's something there. So I understand from a talent standpoint, but just for the sake of discussion, what kind of a package could you center around? Like what would you think you'd be getting back for someone like Jericho Sims?
2 now
John hit this right on the head in the chat. He said basically think about what we got for Obi and then think about what we're probably going to get for Sims. It's just not worth it. If you could get a second round pick out of that, do it, I guess, if you're really looking to move on and you're not going to re-sign him. Although the coach does seem to like him and he has developed during his time here.
He has gotten better. Yeah.
But you're not going to get anything for him in all seriousness.
No.
Anything that's worth anything.
So Ty, the now and laters, you're probably right. Like you said, if it was 2 for Obi, 2 seconds for Obi, which essentially honestly is nothing because it was like, I forget the parameters they had.
Weren't really good second round picks.
Yeah.
It's probably a now and laters and somebody licked 6 of them before giving it to you because they're not. It's really funny looking at him. He plays the part. He looks the part. He looks completely the part. He's a hell of an athlete. His wiring obviously is not one of aggressiveness. So that's really what we're missing here. You think he would slam everything he got. You look at a guy like Derek Lively, guys like that who seem to have those pogo stick legs and they're just jumping, and he plays such a finesse game. He reminds me of I think like Knicks fans wanted Allen Houston to have a little Spreewell in him, like that dog in him. And Allen was just very skilled and very much a finesse player. But you wanted a little bit of that. If you don't, you were like very shocked you don't. Not that Jericho Sims is anywhere near H2O, but I'm just saying the mentality and the wiring. We're seeing a kid with all the gifts, but we don't see him like utilizing any of the power. We always talk about big guys. Big guys are some of the nicest people. We don't want to crush people. We don't want to hurt them.
Yeah,
he's like got that gigantic mentality of I don't want to hurt anybody, and that's seemingly how he plays. He plays very nonchalant, like I don't want to hurt anybody.
Yeah, it's an odd thing because, like you said, athletically, if he could get some of that, he could be a demon, at least as a rebounder and rim protector. Like he could be one of those types. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I don't. When I hear that, I'm like, okay, that's the first question I have. For what? Like, what are we getting for him? Because I mean, he definitely has shown flashes, but are you gonna give anything of value for flashes? Like, I don't think so.
The benefit of
So
having somebody comfortable in the system back there on the bench in case of injuries is more valuable than anything you're going to get for him.
exactly. Like, I'd rather just keep him at that point. Like,
Yeah.
if it comes down to it, like you said, he knows the system. He's been in it his entire career, so at least that you can
And
fall
Tom
back on
seems
that.
to trust him enough to play him.
Yes,
Sparingly and inconsistently, but he's seen the court.
I just don't know. I never understand the one thing about the centers in New York. I mean, it's a mentality issue, not about like Robinson. I mean, we saw obviously iHeart play the game like with a lot of ferocity, a lot of intellect. He looked to score. He saw the open opportunities. He took advantage of it. It's just very weird. Like, you won't see, if not for Hartenstein's ability to get his own shot and work within the system to find the right angles to be in, all that, etc. Guys like Mitch, guys like Sims, they become so one-dimensional because no one ever looks to lob passes. I mean, I must give Julius credit. He did used to lob the ball to Mitch. But the guards never look for the center at all. They never look to involve these big targets, and I mean, that falls on Brunson, really, in a lot of ways. It's like RJ used to do it every once in a while. He'd lob it up to Mitch. But you never got a chance to really see them exposed or utilize the center in more ways than just setting a screen so you can get an open shot. No rolls to the basket or anything. Thank God Towns is actually very accomplished as an offensive threat, because he probably wouldn't even get 10 points either.
But this is one of the things you said about Huckporty, his being active around the rim and actually aggressively rolling and looking for that has led to Brunson feeding him multiple times. Mm-hmm. I don't think, as much as Mitch has complained about his offensive role, and his agent actually complained about his offensive role several years ago, he's not somebody that I see as active around the basket in that way. And you're right. I don't think that Sims is aggressive enough in that way.
But he was.
So maybe there's an accountability thing also. Maybe it's not all the guard's fault.
Mitch was, though, when he was first in the league. So it's kind of the point, like, is it nature and nurture at that point? Like, is it, has he lost stuff?
He was lighter, he wasn't as heavy.
Well, yeah, that's part of it too. But, like, is it because the coach has kind of been like, rebound and defend the paint? Like, that's your job. So maybe that's in his mind at all times. Because he even said, like, I remember they were asking him about offense. He's like, they don't ask me to do that. Like, he said that publicly.
Know what moves.
Yeah. Like, he said that publicly, which I was kind of like, okay, that's weird, but he's Mitch and he does that. So I wasn't surprised. But yeah, like I said, so I wonder how much of it is he's just gotten so conditioned to playing a certain way because that's what they asked of him, as opposed to him just not looking to do it. I don't know. But there was another rumor I read that the Knicks might be considering moving Mitch to Chicago for Nick Vucevic, which would be an interesting move. Yeah. Vucevic is having a really good season. The Bulls obviously are not playing great, so I don't want to say they're having a fire sale, but I heard about Lonzo Ball possibly being available too, and now I hear about Vucevic.
Levine also.
Yeah, Levine. Even though I feel like Levine's always in trade rumors. Huh?
Kobe White too.
Yeah, Kobe White. Yeah.
Wow,
so
of Chicago, jeez.
I don't know, but do you guys think that would be, well, first of all, if they did make that trade, do you think he could play backup? Like, Vucevic has been a starter for most of his career. Do you think, I don't know how that would work, but I don't think you could play him and Towns together because they're kind of similar. Vucevic is not a huge defensive player. So
where's the other $10 million coming from, though?
What was his?
About a $10 million. There's about a $10 million difference annually in those.
Well, Mitch makes 14. Isn't Mitch making 14 or something this year?
I'll look it up.
Something like that.
Yeah, he's making like 14, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Yeah, he's 14. I don't know what Vucevic is making, but Mitch is.
Yeah, Vucevic. That's the 20. That's the 14. 20 that.
So 14, and I think Jericho Sims is $3 million. So that's 17.
Yeah, and they have to be within a certain percentage.
Yeah. And I'm not
sure. So close. They're so close to the second
apron. Yeah.
And then you got the aggregated issues. I don't know if that's with the first apron. You can't aggregate.
Should just make it 20 even.
Oh, it's 20 even. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I was wrong on those additional numbers, but still, there's ground to cover there.
Yeah, they're a little bit short on that.
But yeah, I mean, those are the kinds of things you're hearing. Like I said, it seems like all of our trade rumors revolve around Mitch anyway. Like that's the guy you hear. But
I think the
haven't heard
closest
about it.
guy they can get is Nick Richardson. That's the guy they probably, if they wanted to focus in on making a move for Mitch. I don't know what Charlotte would want, but that seems like to be the option because when he fills a need, he's a double-double right now. He's blocking, I think, 2 shots a game. I mean, whether or not we have the assets to get him is another story, but
It's going to be pricier.
you know, that'd be the one guy, I believe. That or, like I said, Isaiah Stewart, but even his numbers are kind of weird too. I don't know if he's going to be an easy get. The Knicks, I mean, in that Mikal Bridges trade, and they wonder why he's under the gun. They give him a lot of assets that they can't trade now. And if they need another player, because Mitch makes it a little weird when you think about it. You know, the Knicks are a team in the championship window, but they didn't account for Mitchell Robinson enough, in my opinion, of finding a solution for that because they knew for a whole year basically he wasn't going to be available, and you're short on on defense and rebounding. They didn't make that other play. And usually the Knicks are a little bit ahead of themselves, like they're 2 or 3 moves ahead of what their needs are. But they have no way of actually fixing this issue right now without trading someone major.
Yeah.
It's true. I've heard Robert Williams' name brought up again. I feel like he's often a guy that gets brought up.
He's hurt more than Mitch.
He's a machine when he's healthy.
He's Portland Mitch. That's all he is.
Yeah, that's really true. He is Portland
He's
Mitch.
a shot blocker than Mitch is easily. He's a shot blocking demon, that guy.
He's just not healthy.
Dude,
That's the only issue with
I've
him.
always been a fan. Yeah, I have always been a fan of his.
He's quicker than Mitch. He's springier than Mitch.
He's not. Well, he's also not 7 feet tall.
No, he's not 7 feet tall. He's like 6'9".
Yeah.
But he gets
so he's.
I just want to know who was the person that suggested Mitch bulk up. That's what I would love to know, because I think that person needs to be skull dragged a little bit, because I don't think that made him. I think that made him less special, like making him a bulky Embiid type center. You know, what made him special was that he was extremely athletic. I mean, I never saw a guy block three-point shots until I saw him. He was the first guy I ever saw that do it in the NBA. Just the athleticism and the going, he was extremely mobile. This weight on his rims, I think is just not helping him whatsoever. And I think that's what's led to a lot of the problems.
I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more.
I agree. I often wonder if part of it's just, him bulking up plus just age.
Yeah, well,
that'll catch up.
Yep. And he's a Southern kid. I'm sure he likes his Southern food.
Bad mechanics. Talked about that before.
Not on the Zion level. But like I said, not to pick on Zion again, but I swear, I really believe that Zion looks at a piece of cake and gains 30 pounds. He doesn't have to eat it.
That uniform, it seems like it shrinks every time. It's like he can go into halftime and look like he gained 15 pounds. I've never seen such a
That's the craziest thing.
Do you, being that we're on Zion, I know this is a Knicks show, but I'm hearing rumors he's on the block. Do you think that's legit?
Yeah, I think he's been on the block probably for a while. They won't get nothing, no, not with the value that they want.
No,
he's always hurt.
Yeah, I keep hearing that they want to blow up New Orleans. That New Orleans is
the team, folks. The team, not the city.
Yeah, no. Don't do that New Orleans.
With all these drones flying around, we can't mislead people. We can't mislead anyone.
Who said? But yeah, I mean, they have to do something in New Orleans, because David Griffin was looking like a genius for a minute. And now he's looking like a bad GM. And I hate to say it this way, because
I don't think he is a bad GM. I think he's
a weird mix.
I don't think he's a bad, but I'm saying he's looking like one, because the Zion, we all knew at the draft, and I know it was hard for him not to draft Zion. But who did not have this on? I know at least within our group, we had it on the bingo card when we saw his reaction was like, you can't draft him. He wants no part to be in there. He wanted either New York or LA. Not that that's the reason that you don't pick him, but we didn't see the weight issues and all this other, et cetera, that would come along with it. But they should have done their homework and knew something about his character. I mean, they investigate you fully. They vet the athletes. You know, they go to psychological tests. They do all these things. It's just, you mean to tell me you didn't see some of these red flags in his dossier that made you want to maybe think twice about drafting him number one when you can clearly see he was not happy, and then you extend him. You extend him to a max. Didn't he get the max?
Yeah.
He get a max deal.
He gave him the rookie
It's
super
star
max.
power potential in a small market, which needs star power. They need to draw.
They just been here twice. They had Anthony Davis. Clearly, we saw what happened with that. He wanted the hell out of there, and he got the hell out of there. And now you bring in Zion, another unhappy athlete. I think Ja Morant would have been extremely happy in New Orleans because, I mean, he's a small market dude. I think he loves being in Memphis. You know, he would have loved being in New Orleans. I think that would have fit him. I think he's from South Carolina. He's a country boy in the making anyway. I think that would have been more beneficial for them to draft that kind of talent more so than Zion. So right now, David Griffin, I'm not saying he's a bad GM, but he's made some questionable moves. What's the kid that's now in Atlanta? The Australian kid.
Oh, Dyson Daniels.
Giddy?
Dyson Daniels.
Oh, Daniels, yeah.
Why would you no offense to DeJounte Murray. You already had McCollum. Why would you bring in another guy who needs the ball who's a mid-range player? It's like, why would you bring in Dante can't play off the ball? He can play with Trey off the ball. But you give Dyson Daniels to them, and clearly he's a defensive stopper. Brunson
He is.
has a tattoo on his back of Dyson Daniels that he's just walking around with his name on his back because he's been giving him the business. The guy came in being a defensive stalwart. That's what we knew about him. And you trade that away instead of putting him next to someone else who is a more ball-dominant person, and now he can guard the best player on the other team that's on the perimeter. It's like, why would you give that away?
Listen to these names. Just think about the guys on their team, and then they have 5 wins. You mentioned Murray. We mentioned Zion, Brandon Ingram, CJ McCullough.
Trey Murphy
the third, Herb Jones. Like, they are a talented team. They have 5 wins. They are 5-22.
And Grand Theft Alvarez, they got him. Grand Theft Alvarez, they got some talent there. And the kid from
the kid they drafted, Eve Nisi, is going to be good too.
They drafted him from Connecticut. What's the kid? He's a shooter from Connecticut. I can't think of his name, but he's a good shooter also. They've got talent on New Orleans. It's just the fact that it's just a bad mix. It's almost like what we said about Detroit having all that talent, but yet they're putting it together, but it took them a long time to put it together.
Some of them, obviously, they've had injury issues, Zion obviously being the most. And Ingram's missed games and McCollum's missed games. But, man, it's just you look at that roster, and there is no way they should have 5 wins. Like, they should have more than that. So, yeah, maybe teams should start looking in that direction for help. I know we brought up Herb Jones in our private chat. Bob Greenberg. First of all, happy birthday, Bob Greenberg. But
hello, Bob.
Happy birthday, Bob.
Yep. But yeah, he brought up Herb Jones, and like I said, I like him as a player. He's just not a big man. So I'm like, I feel like that's where the Knicks need to address their next, if they're going to make a move, because what we've talked about is uncertainty with Mitch. It's always uncertain because of his injuries, and he literally is. And like Ty says, crazy. He's a role player, but he is probably the key to how far they could go this year. If he's healthy, they could probably make a really long run in the playoffs. If he's not, and they don't do something to address it, or they don't play Hug Porty, or we're kind of coming full circle now in the show, but you know, they don't, then they're not going to be what people think they can be. It's that simple. So speaking of, well, let's talk about valuation. Because the Knicks are the second most valuable franchise in the NBA. But the first are the Golden State Warriors. Now, that was a little surprising to me.
Mhm.
What did you when you see that? What do you guys think? What
Put the
Curry's
Knicks up
great.
for sale and see what they're worth.
Hmm?
Put the Knicks up for sale and see what they're worth.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably a good point. Yeah, but what do you got? Like Golden State,
Mm.
fantastic franchise. Obviously, they've won
They're
many
a
titles. Steph
product of that
Curry's
team, and that team is getting old. The
yeah.
value of the franchise itself is not. The franchise itself does not hold the value that the Knicks do. The Knicks hold so much weight nationally and locally, historically, through bad years, through horrible years, through embarrassment, through humiliation, and all of those things. The Warriors' value, just like the Patriots' value, was tied to the success of a particular team.
Mhm.
They didn't have that underlying equity, I think. So yes, maybe right now at the end of an era, that valuation is going to go up. You start seeing them retire and then see what their valuation is.
Who was
You know,
third?
while they're rebuilding.
Do you know who was third?
The Lakers were third.
Oh, yeah, they're always there.
I'm
But
surprised at that.
guess who's fourth? This is going to be surprising. I'm not going to tell you, but guess who's fourth? Just guess.
Don't tell me the Clippers.
Not the Clippers.
Boston Celtics.
Not Boston.
That'd be the fourth.
It's going to be a shock. Let me just put it that way.
Dallas?
It will be shocking.
Dallas.
You're not telling me
Not
Portland.
Dallas.
You can't
Not
be
Portland.
What to say?
Chicago.
Think much closer, guys.
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Are you? Wow.
Wow.
Brooklyn.
New York market. But ain't
Yep.
nobody
That's-
I'm
watching.
still shocked, even though they're in New York market. Nobody goes to
Ain't
Brooklyn.
nobody watching the Nets. I mean, come on.
But the value, I mean, I could maybe see
It's
it.
like 6 people in Sunset Park that watch the Knicks. That's it.
Well, I'm very shocked.
Yeah. I mean, there's a huge gap. The Knicks, the Warriors, the Knicks, and the Lakers are the top three. And the Warriors are worth 9.14 billion, the Knicks 8.3, the Lakers 8.07. And then there's a 42% drop off to the Nets at 5.7 billion.
I still don't know how the Warriors. I mean, now that you brought this up, the Warriors don't make sense to me that they're more valuable. Not because I'm a Knicks fan. It's just let's keep it a bean. It's New York. I mean, how is
I know.
they're 9 million more than the Knicks?
No, just about $1 billion and
It's
whatever.
recency bias.
It's definitely recency bias. I think the Knicks. I mean, we've been horrible for several decades, but we still sell out. We still got people buying merchandise. You know,
The Clippers.
Stop.
I'll give you the rest of the list. The Clippers were fifth. The Celtics were sixth. The Bulls are seventh. The Heat are eighth. The Rockets are ninth, and the Raptors are 10th.
Wow,
Toronto's a big market.
that is a big
Yeah,
market.
it does. So,
Wow. Yeah, the
Have you
Warriors.
guys ever been to Toronto?
What's that?
Had either of you guys ever been to Toronto?
No, I've been wanting to go to the Caribbean.
yeah, I want to go too.
It's a great city.
Really?
Great city.
I want to go.
Very impressive.
It's in my list.
So, I wanted to end the show on the discussion around the dropped ratings in the NBA because I feel like that's something we have talked about a lot, and we are of a certain age, right? We're all in like similar age range, so we have a certain perspective of the type of basketball that we enjoy. So there's a report that came out that the league ratings are down. Adam Silver was asked about it, and he kind of played it off to saying, well, people don't watch TV the way they used to, and people watch streaming more, which is why our new TV deal, we have more streaming included, and whatever. Like, to me, it was just a commissioner of a league trying to sugarcoat why his league is down, basically. Yeah. People have thrown out the political issue of it, how NBA players are way too political in discussing their views, and that's why certain people are not watching the NBA. There's a lot. This obviously we could do an entire show on this because there are a lot of different avenues we could go down. But I maintain that it's just the product isn't as good.
It's not.
Right?
Mhm.
So, of all the things I brought up, whether it's the way people watch TV or the way people consume the NBA, the political side of it, the players being more outspoken about certain political things that they believe in, turning off a segment of the population who maybe don't want to hear that from their athletes, and then the product. How would you guys rate those?
Product.
First,
I don't want to be Clint Eastwood sitting there having a PBR on my, front porch telling kids to get off my lawn, but the 3-point shot ruined the game. Analytics and the 3-point shot ruined the game. There is no tension in the game, I think, anymore. There's no strategy to the game anymore. It's who comes in hot and who gets lucky at the right time. It's not a contact sport anymore. It's not a sport of, and again, I sound like an old man saying this, but it's not a sport of men like football or hockey is or anything like that. It's not physical. It's not. It's missing something. It's a bunch of guys jacking up threes. And I'll never not be a fan of the game. I grew up on this game. I played this game. I love this game. I'll never not be a fan. But in all honesty, this is watching the game, even playoff games, is not what it was in 1995, 96, 97. And it just wasn't. I don't know that it's basketball players being outspoken at all. I think as much of a problem as I called with football, I think society corrected after that. It cost Kaepernick his career, but I feel like society kind of corrected and adjusted to that in a way where those same consequences really aren't there as much, where it just destroys things to have an opinion on something that isn't aligned with what everyone else thinks. I think it's the product, Eric. I'll die on that hill.
Yeah, I think we all probably feel that way. But Ty, I want to bring another element to this because we've talked about this in the past, and you've actually really spoken about it. Is the league doesn't have an ambassador, right?
I was about to go to you. Must know your boy.
Yeah. The league doesn't. So I'll let you run with that because it is a very key point, and it's probably one of the points. So go ahead. The league doesn't have an ambassador, and explain that.
It's so funny because we've been knowing each other way too long. Because I was going to roll it back a little bit to the old heads here. I was going to roll us back to where we can start where the problem began and why we are where we are right now. The problem is Michael Jordan. I've always said this about the league. When he retired, they had no answer. They had no solution. This guy affected what they said, 20% of the economy, the global economy or the U.S. economy. He had such an impact, a profound impact on the sport and globalized it, obviously, with the Dream Team. He's a brand. He's a logo. He was everything to the NBA. An ambassador, much like we spoke about. He had all the things. And then it was like, what do we have next? When we dial back to Bird and Magic, they were the first ambassadors. Then we move on to bringing in someone else, which was Michael Jordan, who took the game to probably its peak. It was at its peak when Michael played. Yeah. Then it was oh crap, what are we going to do now that he's gone? They tried it with Shaq and Kobe.
Yeah. It
was okay. People got kind of tired. They started fighting each other. Really couldn't get behind the Lakers. So we moved forward. They didn't want San Antonio, clearly, because nobody wants to watch anything in San Antonio, although they were the best team.
That's where it really fell off.
So we're like, oh, the small market, they was probably hating every time. I'm on the show. Stern probably had a Popovich voodoo doll he was sticking like, please, Coach Bad. So they're not in the finals again because when they went to the finals, nobody cared about it, even though I thought it was some of the best basketball. So we move on. We end up getting the villains. We had LeBron James. He comes into the league, and they do the Miami Heat thing or whatever you wanted, the Heatos, Cheetos, whatever you want to call them. And that's where it started getting real murky, because you brought in a guy who not only saw an opportunity to move to Miami and usurp the system and start winning easily, he actually took advantage of it. He took advantage of the whole NBA and started using his own power moves. So you empowered the player who basically held the league hostage, creating super teams, allowing Kevin Durant a belief that he can now leave and go join another super team. And people got turned off because the competition got completely annihilated. You watch this sport with the belief that your team has a chance of winning. That's what the fan base is always about. Wait till next year. We get another player, we should be great. For about a good 10, 11 years, the NBA has saw a super team where guys have joined other guys. And it's wrecked the league. Then you add on to it Steph Curry, who ends up becoming an anomaly of a talent that became every team tried to mimic it. Everybody wants to shoot a damn three, and they're not great marksmen. Steph Curry's a once-in-a-lifetime athlete, same like Michael Jordan, once-in-a-lifetime athlete. So when you're asking other teams to come in and borrow what they've done, you can't replicate it because it's only going to be done one time. The league never had an answer to bring in either rivalry or bring in another star and market behind that star. These guys are socially awkward nowadays. They're all thumbs. They're on Twitter, but they can't handle a platform or a podium. The better players now are foreigners who don't want any part of the mic or the attention. They don't want, they fumble through line. We know Luka knows the curse book. We know that. He can cuss the hell out. Luka can cuss you out, but he can't get in front of the podium and say, we're the NBA, we're the greatest. He can't do none of that, but he'll cuss you the hell out in an interview. So you got these hot mics, and you got Anthony Edwards. We talked about him earlier. He knows how to say ninja. He knows how to say that word. If he didn't learn anything else in Alabama, he knows the word ninja. And I don't mean the karate for people. Figure it out for yourself. He can use the heck out of that word ninja a whole lot, no matter who's in front of him. And I'm like, as a person of with a tan, it makes me damn cringe every time he opens his damn mouth for the microphone. So you got all these things going on, and the product is horrible. You have guys who don't want to play; they want to sit out. And then we have what we have in New York right now. Eric is always super critical of OG Anunoby because of the money he's making. That's a lot of money to pay guys who are at a certain level of play. They're not superstars. These are not elite players that are getting $250 million. There's people who are sitting at home go, what? He's getting what? For doing what? And you become, whether you're a fan of that person or not, it becomes a little level of envy because you're like, they're not worth that. Look at the product on the floor compared to what you're making. When I think about a guy like OG Anunoby, I'm thinking he's got 35 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 blocks, because the amount of money he's getting, you would think that is what a superstar would get, not a role player in the NBA. So there's a lot of elements that go along with why the downfall of the league. They have not changed the style of play. These athletes don't give a damn. You look at Charlotte. Charlotte has all that talent. How would you pay to go see Charlotte? I wouldn't go pay to see Charlotte. You got LaMelo Ball, great talent, but he ain't playing to win. He's
exciting.
Playing to go robs and walk around like he's silly and slap clowns, as we see. That's all he's doing. You can't. We know there's 4 teams that can maybe win a title. There's 4 teams. There's one of them. Boston's one of them. Oklahoma City. And who's the 4th one we want to throw in there? Oh, goodness. Is there 4? I mean, this is the 4. Maybe 4. Am I right? Who? OKC, the Knicks, Boston. Who are we going to throw in as the 4th that we say is possibly going to win a title? Is there a 4th? It might be only 3 that we're like.
I would lean towards a team like Dallas, maybe, but I can't say for certain. I can't even, honestly, I'm a Knicks fan, but I can't even say the Knicks for certain.
I don't even either. I was really on it early until I saw some of the stuff that's going on with McCall. I'm like, we got to dial back, and the coach got to dial back some of these
things. I think
things.
Dallas is more likely.
So you may have, if we're being generous, maybe 4 teams that are at a level where they could compete for a championship. I'm going to say compete, not win. The rest of this 30, there's 28 other teams. And you're expanding the league after this also. You want to add 2 more teams to already watered down product. If anything, you should want to contract the league and make less teams so then the talent pool is more heavy. And now you got teams that are just way over better because they got way more talent. The distribution, every team should have a superstar. That's what the hope should be. But you think Charlotte came in or Brooklyn came in this year saying we're going to win? No, they're not saying that. Orlando,
Washington.
You want to be in that? Washington's an abomination. Why would that even just send them to the damn G League? Why are they even in the league?
They're doing what we wanted the Knicks to do for years. They are just throwing in the towel. It's not a bad strategic move.
But the team I just brought up, like the Pelicans, right? Like we just talked about them, and we see all the talent that they have. And yes, they've had injury issues, but we see all that talent, and they have 5 wins.
Wow.
Like you have a bunch of guys on the team. Like we didn't bring up Zion as being the face of the league, but the talent dictated he could have been, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you had a player like that goes to New Orleans. He could have been the next guy to take the mantle. Ja Morant could have been if he wasn't shooting people off, not shooting people, but shooting guns in his personal life and being stupid enough to get someone to video. And like, so I think there's a bunch of things. I think we've talked about a lot, and I think it's a bunch of things. And the one thing that would be able to sustain it, should be able to sustain it, despite all the other stuff, is if the product was good. If the game itself was good and enjoyable to watch, then you could push aside all the other stuff. So when I listen to Adam Silver talk about all these, try to explain away all this stuff, I'm like, dude, come on. You were part of the league office with Stern. You know what it was like. You know it's not the same. And I love basketball. It's a great game when it's played in a certain way. I don't think there should be one element ever so highly stressed and one element so removed. I think it's a beautiful game when you have all things clicking, and we just don't have that anymore. Like you said, it's become pickup basketball where guys just run up and down the court, shoot, run back and play defense, shoot.
There's absolutely no strategy.
There isn't, and it's the post game. That's why every time I see like Towns in the post, I'm like, because like I'm seeing something there. Like I'm seeing, something that I grew up watching. And again, maybe it's me. Maybe young people, you ask them this question and they're like, no, it's fine. And maybe it's just the era we came up in. I don't know.
You know what's also missing from the game, and let's just be honest about this. First of all, these are all fantastic points that you guys brought up. I mean, really. And I think it needs to be said and aggregated together for the fans, because I think everybody knows there's something wrong. And I think there's a responsibility for people that are sitting here publicly and talking about the game to address this. What also is missing from the game is the hate.
Yeah.
The hate is missing from the game.
That's a good point.
Right.
Look at what happened in the Atlanta game with the dice rolling. Xavier McDaniel would have killed him. Would have put him in the ICU.
It's fair.
And that's what's missing from sport.
You're 100% right.
Basketball. Nobody gave a shit. Nobody had pride. Nobody had pride in their it's just
you nailed the competition part, because
yes,
that is the one thing. And I know we off camera talked about the reaction to Trae Young. And I think for us old heads, and I don't know, maybe the young heads feel the same way. I don't know. It's just you want them to do something. I think Brunson got the memo a little bit when he came out in Orlando. Like, I got to play. I got to let you guys know I'm not soft. But it's like, just let us know that you got a pulse, that you're competitive. Like, I would hate to lose. But I don't never feel like these guys hate to lose. I feel like these guys are just out here collecting the check. And I think that's come across very clear to the average fan, and maybe fans that you're trying to bring in. They're like, oh, I'm not going to go lose. They don't look like they won't even play. I mean, Embiid basically
everybody's friends. You don't see Detroit and Chicago at tip-off foaming at the mouth, wanting to kill each other.
Nope.
Yep. They all grew up playing together. They're all AAU. They're all on the
All
same teams
buddies.
growing up.
Kumbaya.
They have, they have different priorities.
Mhm.
It's more about their profile, their brand, what they're bringing in, what they're doing off the court, all of these things. And it's not simply about you're standing in the way of what I want. And we've clashed so many times with you that I lay up at night thinking of ways to kill you and then beat you. You don't have that anymore. Like, again, the perfect example was the Isaiah Pistons and Chicago and the Jordan Bulls. I'm not a fan of either team, but I watched every time they played.
Yeah, it was there.
Because it was theater. It was high stakes. It was every possession counting. It wasn't jacking up a bunch of threes and hoping they go in. And whoever woke up on the right side of the bed won the game.
Yeah, we need more Nino Browns, right? Friends is friends. This is business. We need, right?
Business Tito.
Yeah, we need more of those. We could go talk about this topic all night. I think we would go for hours and hours, but we have lives, so we can't do that. We can't do that. Well, we have wives, and those two I don't, but those two have wives, so
Yeah.
that's a whole other layer.
Lives and lives.
That's a whole other layer to the conversation. So we're gonna shut this one down. Do you guys have anything you want to talk about? Let people know.
Just visit us at All Knicked Up on Facebook, on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and just get at your boys. Love to engage with you guys.
Yes, and as you guys can see, our information is on the screen. So those are our Twitter handles or X handles, whatever you want to call them. If you're not part of the All Knicked Up Facebook group, let us know. Reach out to one of us on Facebook, or you can actually message the page itself, and we can get a message and we can add you guys to the group. It is a private group, so but if you guys are interested, definitely let us know and we'll let you in. There will not be a show next week because next week is Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho.
So from all of us to all of you guys, we want to wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday Season. Won't be here the following week either because I'll be in Iceland. So if you guys want to do a New Year's Day show, feel free. But oh wait, Joe, are you going to Mexico?
I'm going to Mexico the week of Christmas, but I'll be back for New Year's. And
so next week you're going.
I could be talked into it. Yeah, next week.
We'll see.
All right, well, I'll be in Iceland, so I won't be, but you guys can discuss that.
What we do.
Figure out what you guys want to do. But yeah, since I won't be here, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. Happy New Year to everybody as well. I will see you in 2025, where of course we will have more Knicks talk, Knicks action, NBA chat, whatever you guys want us to talk about. Get at us and let us know. So for Ty and Joe, I'm Eric. You're watching All Knicked Up, and I'll see you in 2025. These guys will see you next time.